Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brent Kitchen, team lead for RPIW number 15. So in keeping of this, in the spirit of saving the best till last, I'm very excited to tell you our story about RPIW number 15 with my fantastic team behind me here, which they've been behind me all week, actually, sometimes in front, always behind for sure. Here's the agenda for how we're going to report out to a tack time of 20 minutes. Here's the team you see before you, with the exception of Heather, who wasn't able to be here at Report Out today because of a commitment she had out of town that we expected ahead of time. So this is our workshop project forum. The title of our RPIW was Eliminating Waste to Maximize Productivity in the MSK Clinic, which is what we did. Val Hunke was our sponsor. Amy Holden and Barb Newman were our co-process owners. Our content experts became participants on our team throughout the week. And that made all the difference, really. Basically, the process flow in the MSK clinic is patients entering the clinic with musculoskeletal pain that needs assessment and follow-up. They are registered in the clinic. They're seen by both a physiotherapist and a physician and exit the clinic. And one of the benefits of the program is those patients exiting with what they need for further follow-up, whether it's a referral to another physician, whether it's a prescription, whether it's an injection, whether it's an order for an MRI, etc. Patients are leaving the clinic with those in hand. We basically set our targets around that 50% improvement, which was the spirit of Kaizen. So on our target progress report and results sheet, we had a baseline for space, which we considered to be the waiting room. We had 2 waiting rooms that people waited in. We also had an examination room and a registration area. Our intent was to eliminate inventory, which is the patients on the waiting list who were waiting. Patients went through considerable walking distance. It was our intent to reduce the walking distance of patients by 50%. The part travel distance was how far the chart and other elements of paper were traveling. The lead time, or the time that patients were spending on their visit to the clinic, was about 56 minutes, which we intended to decrease by 50%. We had some quality defects for faxes that were being misplaced, at least temporarily, or hopefully not lost altogether. We wanted to improve productivity in the clinic. We wanted to improve the tidiness of the clinic, and we wanted to reduce how much setup time patients experienced. We had a cycle time of 34 minutes. It's important to note that as patients are seen in the clinic, in what is no longer the current state, but what we experienced initially, patients were being seen by both the physiotherapist and the physician together, which was a 34-minute cycle time, but there were 2 providers at that time. And we knew we had to improve the capacity within the clinic because there's a need for more follow-through and flow through the clinic.
I'm Brad Woodell. I'm a project manager in acute emergency services at the ministry. I'd like to thank RQ for allowing me to be a participant in this RPIW, and I'm the unofficial team baker for RPIW 14 and 15. It's my task today to report on our TAC times and our value stream mapping. Our team leads on week -3 built the value stream map for our current state and determined to meet our stretch goals that we needed a TAC time of 18 minutes for patients leaving the clinic. On our current state value stream map, I'd like to draw the audience's attention to the blue stickies on the left that represents the number of touch points that patients experienced on their journey. Across the top, you'll see orange stickies, which represent where all the information related to that patient visit was flowing. And on the far right, you'll see yellow and pink stickies that represent the different steps that our providers were involved in the current state. Our team will share with you a number of the different changes we made to arrive at our current or our future state value stream map, which will show you a significant reduction in the number of patient steps, and we certainly were able to streamline information flow throughout the process, as well as improving the provider-patient interaction and streamlining a number of those steps.
Thank you, Brad. My name is June Blau. I am very excited to have been a patient participant this week. The Kaizen activity that I'm reporting on is the 7 waste area. So in the overproduction area, we had both providers, the MD and the physio seeing the patients, all patients at the same time. We had some uncertainty as to whether exam rooms were available or not available. In the transportation area, we had the patient chart traveling the entire length of the clinic. In the processing area, we had some issues with faxes, retrieval of faxes, missing faxes, at least temporarily, and some issues with respect to room cleaning. In terms of stock on hand, we had medications, we had outdated, we had undersupply, we had oversupply, we had expired. And in education material, we had oversupply or supply that wasn't in a place where it was best used by the providers. In the movement area, we had patients moving between waiting room, change room, waiting room, exam room, and we had patients sitting and rising multiple times during that process. And if any of you have musculoskeletal issues, you'll know that that's probably worse than a period of straight walking. In the defective products area, we had incomplete documentation, missing x-rays, we had faxes not delivered the first time, and over the period of time, you can see that we were able to eliminate quite a bit of the waste. We didn't get 100% of it, but that's work in progress and suggestions for future considerations.
Hi, my name is Jim Dean. I'm a patient representative on this team, and I'm going to talk about what we call patient self-rooming, which simply means the patient coming in the front door by themselves and taking themselves right to the room where the action takes place and for registration. The first picture you're going to see, the spaghetti diagram, is a red line of what was happening before this came about. And it reminds me of me on a drunk. The second spaghetti diagram you're going to see is the blue line represents now what the patient flow will be. Now, one thing that's going to be critical for this is signage, so that when the person comes in the door, they immediately know what they're supposed to do. And if you think about signage, obviously visibility has to be point number one, self-explanatory needs to be two, and meeting the diversity needs of our population, culture, language, visibility, etc., needs to be there as well. The key points that this does is reduces or eliminates patient walking. And think of me on a drunk with my mobility issues. Second thing is patient sitting, standing. Third thing is patient downtime, i.e. just sitting and waiting. The fourth thing is staff time required. And the fifth thing is the usage of the building area. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kim, and I do the registration part and booking of the appointments. We have made changes in the registration process that have dramatically affected patient flow. Patients in the old process prior to RPIW came into the Surgical Assessment Center, went to the registration desk, and was registered. Given a scoring tool sheet to fill out in the main waiting room, instructed to bring it back up when completed and then be seated again. The registration clerk would then score the sheet, call the patient, and walk the patient down to the hall and ask them to change if needed and then be seated in the hall, which we called waiting room 2. Then the doc or the physio would call them into the room to begin the exam. With this model, patient steps were around 234 feet cycles, and we have brought that down to 135. Now with the RPIW, patients are now self-rooming, and we have brought the registration process to the patient with a portable registration cart. The whole process is now done in the room, which seemed to make patients happy because they had stated getting up and down was an issue for them, whereas now they come into the room where everything is done from start to finish. And yeah.
My name is Warren Dufour. I'm a physician working at the MSK clinic. And I'd just like to say before starting that the other day we were working a little bit late, and to show the difference between the two teams, we shared a workspace with team number 14, and we were working late, and on our table was a beautiful edible bouquet from Amy. On their table was a golden toilet. And so I think I prefer to work with our team than theirs. So the MSK clinic is a multidisciplinary clinic where a patient is assessed for musculoskeletal problems by a physician and a physiotherapist. Currently, each patient was seen by both providers at the same time for 30 minutes. This provided excellent service to the patient and high provider satisfaction. However, with only 11 patients seen per day, we would be unable to meet the expected increase in capacity required with the existing financial and personal resources. So we trialed 3 different treatment options in order to increase flow into the clinic. In our first option, we went with separate providers. The patients were triaged to see either the physiotherapist or the physician for 30 minutes. This would double the capacity of the clinic. However, triage based on the information provided in the referral could not be done very effectively. And in fact, all patients triaged to the physiotherapist only stream required physician services, whether that be ordering MRIs, referral to specialists, or even signing a requisition for physiotherapy so that it would be accepted by the patient's health benefit plan. This introduced significant wastage to the process, with long patient waits while they're waiting to see the second provider, as well as doubling up of medical services. There is also low provider satisfaction with this option. Our second and third options were sequential providers. The patient would either see the physiotherapist or the physician for the first 15 minutes and then see the other provider for the last 20 minutes with a 5-minute hot handover between the two providers. The system which worked best for us was having the physician see the patient first, the physiotherapist second, and as I said, 5 minutes of combined meeting with the patient. This will increase the capacity to the clinic of up to 17 patients per day, good service to the patients because they have 30 minutes face time with health providers, as well as good provider satisfaction. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dale Patura. I'm a contact expert turned into a participant. I'm the physiotherapist that works at the MSK clinic. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our percent load chart. Prior to this RPIW, as Warren had mentioned, we had the physiotherapist and the physician seeing the patient at the same time. That totaled up to 60 minutes of practitioner time with the patient. That was great value added to the patient. They really enjoyed having that much time with 2 practitioners. The patient still got the 30-minute appointment time, but what we noticed as we started to look at this is the practitioners had very similar skill sets, and that it may have been just a duplication of the services. So post-RPIW, we had, as Warren mentioned, the physician see the patient, then the physiotherapist come in with the warm handoff, then the physiotherapist finish up with education of the condition. This took the total skill set across the appointment and allocated it to different practitioners. It maintained the value added to the patient with the warm handoff, so they were both involved. It maintained the 30-minute patient time, but it decreased the provider time to only 30 minutes, therefore increasing our productivity and getting closer to our TAC time.
Hi, my name is Marty Haru, and I'm a physician in the MSK clinic, and I was a participant in this week's work. One of the parts of the work that was done was 5S'ing, and at week -3, an evaluation of the work area was performed pre-5S, and a score of 1.3 was attained. 3 main areas were then assessed: our medication cabinet, which housed all of the various medications and equipment that we have basically ever needed; our materials cabinet, which housed some of the equipment and information that we use for patient information. And this cabinet also served as the junk drop area for our clinic. And lastly, we assessed access to computers and the various applications that we needed to access. The idea sheet summary focused on trying to ensure that all 3 exam rooms had identical access to equipment, medications, and computers in a waste-free and non-cluttered manner. Another idea that was presented was the use of an iPad or a tablet to replace workstations in the room, but unfortunately we were unable to trial this idea. However, the IT department did spend a great deal of time standardizing the computers and access to the applications that we use in each of the 3 exam rooms, and that was very, very successful.
Thank you. I'm Taryn Lorenz, and I'm a Wave 1 participant. Our post-5S score was 2.3. There was quite a few expired items, from medications to sterile gloves, and we also had the opportunity to look at their medication and kit them so that all the rooms are now accessible to all providers.
I'm Tamara Christensen with the KPO office, and I was sub-team lead on this RPIW, and what I wanted to talk to you about, the time observation form, shows basically that our lead time didn't change too much, although our value add did increase during that time for the patient. The next paper talks about our modified waterfall schedule. The first provider comes in, then there's a handoff, then the second provider comes in, which really did increase value add. Then we want to go through the target sheets, and just for the sake of time, we'll just highlight some of the real big ones we want to talk about. First off, with space, we did see a reduction in space by 73%. And the next thing I want to highlight as well is the productivity gain. We did see a 44% increase in productivity per provider by going this route as well. On the second sheet, we'll talk about the capacity increase. We do know that although the calculation of 22 patients seen per day by 2 providers is a correct calculation, we want to balance the patient demand along with provider satisfaction and patient satisfaction. So by using the waterfall module, the waterfall schedule, we feel we can do that because we do have some overlap in seeing the patients with that handoff. So with that current model running right now, we are able to see 18 patients per day, which is a 50% increase in the MSK capacity right now. We do have some newspaper agendas to go through. The most important one is about signage, and we want to make sure that we get those craft signs fixed and put something in there that's just a bit more professional. But anyways, we'll hand off these to-dos to the process owner, and we're quite sure it'll be good.
So I'm very happy to tell you about the summary of our workshop. We implemented self-rooming, which was a big deal. Patients go directly from the front door right to the exam room and are registered right in the exam room. One patient was a little bit ticked that he didn't get registered in the whole process because he didn't realize he was registered because he didn't go to an actual registration booth, but he was registered. We tried 3 different provider models. We said we have to prove it works or prove it doesn't work, and the providers were very open to trying it, even though it was very chaotic. We caused a lot of chaos, which was, I think, a good thing at times. We decreased lead time a bit. We maintained that quality time spent with both providers, and we increased the capacity of the clinic by 5%. And the real story, I think, was how we balanced, as Tamara said, we balanced provider satisfaction with the need to improve flow and maintain the same type of customer or patient satisfaction for people like Jim and June who have need that sort of service. So we have lots of people to thank. Lots of thanks go to Amy and to Barb, and particularly to Val, who helped us out so much, to Jan, and just the whole team, which was fantastic. So I think it was a great story, and I'm glad it's done.